a question. What does moving from acceptance to advocacy mean for you? My name is Philip King-Lowe. Many of you may know me as the owner, producer, and host of today's Autistic Moment, a podcast for autistic adults by an autistic adult, and that is me. And throughout my now into my sixth year of doing the podcast, I have interviewed many autistic adults and many of our allies. And after what took place last April with the announcements that came from um, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., um, and there was a group of us who came out of that meeting feeling so burned out, so tired, and obviously just suffering from everything we heard. And in that moment that we met, we began talking about the creation of a new movement. Because one of the things we all said together, and this isn't going to be verbatim, I'm not going to be word for word, but we said that we did not want to go through another April like this without doing some things for autistic people and our communities. We came together, we created some working groups, we created some places for people to have conversations. We still have a survey going on, and that's how we came up with the name together, Autistic Advocates United, an autistic and allies grassroots movement. And among the things that we as a group agreed with, it is time to make a change for April. Autism awareness became Autism Acceptance Month. And while all of those have definitely contributed to the infrastructure we built, we recognized that since we had this horrible set of events about a year ago, we said something needs to change. And it can't just be autistics and our allies laying there um, feeling helpless with what could come next. So we decided we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to become advocates and we're going to rename April as Autistic Advocacy Month so that we can all be proactive rather than just reactive or feeling like we're powerless. So we're in this, we are helping um, autistics take up the flags, if you want to say that. We're taking up the power that is within us to bring lasting change that will hopefully become a household name.
Yes. Yes,
You
yes,
know?
yes. Yes. And as far as your role in this, you are the one who really brought that group of people together to have those conversations. You're the one who reached out to me, and said, "Hey, together we can make this happen. So let's do it."
Right.
So you have a role definitely as a leader and a founding partner of the movement,
Mm,
which is
yeah.
great.
And I was proud to do that. And I was proud of all the people who came together. And thank you so much for coming and helping us start this out.
Yes.
Everybody who came and has participated since then, either through your comments, your criticisms, or your input, whether it's negative, positive, all that, you've all contributed somehow to making this happen. And AJ has been the communications coordinator. Okay. And so AJ has been helping out with communicating with me, meeting with me, and we've been talking together and we've been really hashing things out. And so, AJ, thank you so much for all the work we've done together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my truly my pleasure as a fellow autistic to to work with someone who understands how I work, who is willing to have communication when we're not working on the same thing in the same way, and we're able to just have good conversation and come to a collective agreement on how to move things forward, and that is so important.
Mhm.
You were talking earlier before we started, and you said, it makes me so proud to work with an organization who you're working with, who doesn't sit back and wait for a neurotypical to come along and help them do the work. They're doing the work.
Right, right, yeah. And I've seen so many people on today's autistic moment and throughout my local community here where they're doing just that. They're not waiting around for a bunch of neurotypical people to get their heads together and bring us something that probably isn't going to meet our needs. These are autistic, neurodivergent people who are saying, no, we're not waiting around anymore. We're going to do it ourselves if they won't.
Yep.
And the people that I have been working with are unbelievably successful. That's why we're doing this. We want autistic people to be successful in advocating for ourselves. Community is not just how we survive, it's how we thrive. When we bring our heads together with everybody with their individual means of advocacy, we have authors, we have political activists, journalists like Eric Garcia and some and more like him. We have politicians who are acting. We
Mhm.
have um, wonderful folks who are reaching out, like Carol Jean Whittington, our dear friend, who does all this work with autistic women when so many of them are being told you don't exist,
Mhm.
and that sort of thing. And I interviewed Zoe about how dealing with autistics thriving in crises. And, let's not forget the wonderful work that Becca Laurie Hector does with self-care. And
Mhm. And we need all different levels of advocates, because sometimes when you're advocating, you need to step forward about something that you know that you're an expert about, and other times you need to step back.
Mhm,
So when you're talking about these advocates, and how we have different people from the community sharing their story,
mhm,
sharing your story is one of the most powerful advocacy things that you can do.
right. And even if that means you have to step back and take care of yourself, I know how some people feel. I have to be point blank fully engaged. No, you also need to be engaged and taking care of yourself. That's an
Mhm.
advocacy thing.
Yep.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, you are not going to be able to advocate for yourself or anyone else. That's
Yep.
why this is so crucial for you. And the thing is that for some people, the month of April has become the time of no social media, and I don't blame you. No reading, no responding to anything. And sometimes it's like, no, I got to respond to everything because I'm this concerned. If whichever way works for you, if that's what works for you and you feel like you're making contributions, then do it. So I hope whomever is hearing this, whatever way you're advocating during this month of April, I hope you will take time to celebrate your way of advocating.
Yes. And we actually have that built in to the
Mm,
calendar. Um, I'm we have our calendar. It's on our website at Autistic Advocacy Month.com. One more time, Autistic Advocacy Month.com. You can go on there and see our events calendar. And we have a lot of days that allow people, invite people, I would say, to practice some kind of self care. For example, um, our April 5th event was post and talk about your favorite recipes.
Mm.
Now, people can post and talk about whatever they want. We're just throwing out this idea of how cool would it be if we have 30 people share a recipe and then we put those recipes together in a booklet that people can download and they can have a whole book of recipes completely designed by autistic people.
Yeah.
How cool is that? That's
Yeah.
exciting. All of these activities that we have put on the calendar, those are all going to go into a community repository that people can go in and search and find
Mm.
things. And we will continue to build it as things grow.
Mm. Yeah.
And it's just going to grow and grow and grow over the years because what works for one person may not work for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I may not have the executive functioning today to find something that works for me. So
Hmm.
I need to look at somebody else's ideas and try that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exciting. And that's why we say that we've made very intentional choices
Hmm.
with Autistic Advocates United going into Autistic Advocacy Month. Very intentional choices that this is an autistic led movement.
Yeah. It's an autistic led movement. And, as I say, whatever your way of advocating is, you need to celebrate that this month rather than waiting for some announcement that's just going to hit you over the head. Don't just listen to messages like that. You celebrate something about you that
Yeah.
makes you happy.
Yeah.
That's advocacy.
Yes, it really is. It really is. If you're feeling put out by something that you've seen on TV or social media or a conversation you heard happening in a restaurant where you were eating with your family, go look at the calendar. Find some things on the calendar there that make you feel like you are making a difference in your life and the lives of others.
Yeah.
Contribution is so important.
Yeah.
Sharing your story is so important.
And most likely there'll be somebody who is hearing you who may be having the same or a similar or even a very different reaction or whatever who'll say, that might be something I want to try.
Yeah,
Maybe I need to sit down and write up a list of all the things I appreciate about myself as an autistic person. That's advocacy.
yeah,
You're using that moment when it feels like literally the roof is caved in. And, now you get to turn that moment into something you can celebrate, and you can
yeah,
certainly do it on your own time. I mean, there's no one that says you got to do everything at once. And that's actually one of the reasons why we have that calendar and series of events. You may not be able to do the one on the 8th, but you can do whatever's on the 21st. That's okay.
absolutely. And
Yeah,
you can do them on whatever day, and you can keep doing them throughout the year.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
want to say Miriam Edelman is a community member, and she helped build the calendar. And she and I are having conversations regularly about what it's going to look like after April as we
Right.
continue
Yeah,
advocating and doing advocacy events because we're not only autistic in April.
yeah. Now, how can you, as an autistic person, change that? By taking all whatever you do in autistic advocacy or something you haven't yet done and carry it into the rest of the year and just keep doing that for yourself. And we really want to encourage people to do just that. And I mean, if you run out of something to do after, go back to the calendar, find something you might like to do or do again or just do for the first time. You know, do it,
Yeah.
you know.
The
Um,
calendar's not going away.
no,
There
no.
will be events. Umbrella ND's calendar is now published with events
Yeah.
for the community. And that includes events that are specific for autistics and our allies
Mhm.
and autistic advocacy.
Yeah. I wanted to bring in something here that's important because we've really tried to make this accessible for a lot of our intersectional communities because we know that the autistic community is intersectional. Um, and there are so many groups of people who are part of this, of various races. I've had Charlotte Batchelor, a Black autistic person, and now what I love about Coach Lee Hopkins is a Black autistic trans man, okay? And so, we got all this diversity around us. And we do want people as part of those intersectional communities. We want you to engage in this to help once again bring out the true diversity of the autistic community, those who are multiply neurodivergent, whatever that way is. We want you in this because we need to hear your voices, like those who say, um, like Precious Leslie once said, the autistic community and the disability justice communities has this saying, nothing about us without us. But quite frankly, it's the people of color who often don't have a voice at that table.
Yes.
We need to hear that. And so wherever you come from, whatever group you are part of, out in addition to the autistic community, we need to hear you. We need to see you, however you choose for us to see you. We need to see you and we need to hear you because you're right. The neurodivergent and autistic movements have been whitewashed.
Yep.
We've been, um, we've had our moments of gender discrimination and all that, and we need to know this community represents I like why you use the word umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
That umbrella represents our diversity of
Absolutely.
all the people that are part of this. So wherever you come from, whatever you're part of, come into it. But please come into it with as open of a mind as you can and realize there are more voices in this than what we are aware of,
Yep.
you know?
And different experiences.
Absolutely. Yep.
They say if you've met one autistic, you've met one autistic. I think it's important for us to remember that too. As autistics, sometimes we forget and we can actually have biases against people whose experience is different than ours.
Yeah,
And we
we
need
can.
to remember that everybody's experience is valid regardless of what that experience is. Their
Right.
feelings are valid.
Mhm. Yeah. And I won't mislead anybody. I'm as guilty of that as anybody else,
Yep. Same.
because we like our we like our little space and all that. And there's nothing really wrong with that, but you know, it's very difficult and there's still some room to listen if you can. And this is why we need to do this month. The autistic community is a lot more powerful than we give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely.
You know, and I love how among the things we've said is that it's time that April reflects that power.
So in April, we've got activities going on every day. Again, people can go to autisticadvocacymonth.com and they can see the events calendar. And it is populated with the events. And as time goes and we continue building materials, those materials will be put into those dates so that they are there and ready on the day.
Mm,
Sometimes you're going to find things in there beforehand. Other times we're just trying to, we're finishing something up and it's coming. So, one of
yeah.
those things that we're finishing up is the Self Advocacy Survival Guide.
Mhm.
We have gotten it back from the editor and made those edits and are getting it ready to publish and put out for people to be able to get their copy.
Mm,
And we're doing copies in multiple different ways. And so our event that we're going to have for that is going to be April 30th, where we will
yes.
officially launch the Self Advocacy Survival Guide for folks to
Awesome.
use throughout the year. Because
Mm,
again, We're autistic every day, not just in April.
No. Yeah, sorry. Yes. Forgive me. Wrong choice of words. Forgive me, everybody. Yes, we are. And yeah, and we're still looking forward to whatever our autistic community brings forward